Hey, it's Matt Pinfield. It's KLOS, new and approved, and I'm here with one of my favorite singers of all time, and that's Paul Rodgers. Paul, great to see you. How you doing?
Well, it's great to see you, Matt. Yeah, I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for asking.
You know, it's really exciting. You got the new album Midnight Rose coming out in September. You got a great new single, Living It Up. And I love this song. And Paul, can you talk to me about it? I like one of the things you're doing. It's been so great to see you on social media, just like, see what you're doing. And,
Uh,
and you're doing this really cool thing where you're actually including your fans, what their description of Living It Up is,
yeah, yeah.
as to come to make a video for it. Because I think videos are really, people are getting more excited about videos again, like they haven't been in years. So tell me about that.
Well, living it up means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. It was interesting to find out what living it up means to, everybody else. I mean, the song is about a young kid from Middlesbrough discovering blues and soul and rock and roll, and bringing it to America, and the journey thereof, because I do think that American music, blues, soul, and rock and roll, and jazz too, has really had a fantastically powerful effect worldwide, and that's my feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I've got to ask you about that. I know, you discovering blues and, real great soul music, everything that you listened to when you were a kid. But, I got to meet Chris Blackwell, years ago, and we sat down on the couch. And the first thing I wanted to ask him was, you got to talk to me about Free. I wanted to know about that. And he said to me, he goes, I felt like they were almost like my younger brothers or kids. He goes, they were so young when we signed them to Island over in the UK. But tell me about forming the band and that period when, because you guys were so young, you were literally in your teens. So when you got
We
signed,
were.
yeah,
We were very young. I remember when we were looking to be signed up by Island Records. Actually, a guy called Alexis Corner put us in touch with Chris Blackwell, and they, well, they wanted to check us out completely, of course, before they signed us. And they came to a show. They heard our rehearsals. They heard our demos and all this kind of thing. And they said, well, we like the band, but we're not convinced about the name. We'd like to call you the Heavy Metal Kids.
I'm so glad they
And,
kept Free. You know, I mean, there was a band
and
called Heavy Metal Kids, but Free felt.
Yeah, well, later I think they did actually. I don't know. Maybe they used the name somehow later. But anyway, I said absolutely flat no. There's no way, and I couldn't believe we would even consider it because we were so, we wanted to be free. This was our identity. But anyway, we stuck to our guns and we were free. So that's what happened there. But Chris was great. He was very innovative, especially for the time. In those days, you used to have to book studio time and you paid through the nose. All the studios were booked out, and there was a lot of people. I mean, you'd go to a studio, and there'd be another group in the foyer waiting, like looking in the windows. Are you guys done yet? So it was a lot of pressure. And what Chris did was he put two studios. There was a big one in the top, a big one up. It was a church, a converted church, and downstairs there was a crypt that they converted to another control room and studio, right? So there's a big one and a small one. And he just gave us free time. He just said, go in, take your time, take whatever time you need and record. And this was like total bliss for us. And we did. And that was great. It was great for us. Yeah.
It's amazing, looking back on it with tons of sobs coming out of that, and those early singles which were great, like "I'm a Mover," "I'll Be
Yeah.
Creeping," all such great songs, and
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah.
you know,
Well, Andy Fraser and I discovered songwriting together because he started songwriting at about the same time as he joined the band, and so did I. As a band formed, and so we became a songwriting team. We were like Lennon McCartney in our own minds. And that's what we're trying to do.
yeah, and you did, and it was great, and you became a band that everybody really, you were the band to see over in the UK. I know that there were some, Isle of Wight. There were all these great shows, that are on record that I've gone back and watched as a fan, which is great. But you really broke through in the States with the Fire and Water album, and let's talk about that because all of a sudden, and it's really interesting because that All Right Now, I know the single, which became, just a huge hit for you guys. Didn't that come out of a gig that you guys were doing at a college and you weren't all that happy with the way the show was that night? Can you tell me a bit about the story behind All Right Now?
Well, we did a show and it wasn't very good. It wasn't very, it was in Stockton, actually right next to my hometown, actually, next to Middlesbrough. And we did a show there. And there wasn't too many people then. I remember Simon Kirk saying, well, there's no point in playing, is there? And I said, we're going to play for each other. You got that? And I said, we're going to go on and we're going to do our best show. Even though it's 5 people, it doesn't matter. We're just going to do our best show. And we did. And the next time we came back there, the place was jammed. Word of mouth is a fantastic thing. So, and from that, I think we wrote All Right Now. It was like, I said, we had a song called The Hunter, which is still in existence, Albert King's song, Steve Cropper and Albert King. And it's called The Hunter. They call me The Hunter. Yeah. That's my name. It used to be a big song for us. And we tried to do as many of our own songs as we possibly could. And I said to Andy, look, we've got to do the whole set of our own songs because that way we have our own identity, right? I was looking at bands and, the bands that had their own complete set of their own material were completely, had a voice, And And anyway, we couldn't not do The Hunter. That was the one song we could not do, right? And so I said, we need a song like The Hunter, but better. It should be one that we can sing along. Something like I don't know, All Right Now. Like that. I said, wait a minute, that's it. Grabbed the guitar and worked the chords out. And then Andy took that away and he came back with the verse part. And so we had this long verse and then we had All Right Now, baby. So I had to get to that point. And I thought, well, how do I get to it being all right now? So I said, well, there she stood in the street, smiling from her head to her feet. Yeah. I said, hey, what is this? The lyrics just flowed out. And it was a very easy write. And we did it that first night we played there back at Stockton. We did that song. And it went down like a storm. It was just we opened the show with it. And people remembered it at the end of the set when we used to do 2 45-minute sets, right? So we do the 45 and then we come off and then we go on again. And so the audience had only heard the song at the beginning of this first 45. And I said to them at the end of the second 45, hey, we request time. What does everyone want? And they all called for All Right Now. And I thought, wow, they still remember it an hour or two later, So I knew it had something right then.
Yeah, and it was amazing. One of my favorite songs on that album that I just love, it's always stuck with me since I was a young guy, and is Oh, I Wept, which, was the second song on the record. It's a beautiful song, and it just gives you that. There's something about the melancholy about that and the seat on the train, those lyrics. Tell me about that song, Paul.
Well, cool.
I know you've written a lot, but
I did a lot of hitchhiking and train riding back in the day. Back in my early days, going down to London and looking for bands and musicians and all that. So it was just I don't know, something that occurred.
Yeah. It's such a beautiful song.
I take my seat on the train. Yeah.
Oh, let the sun come wash my pain. That song, I love that.
Yeah.
It's such a great.
Well, you see, I was actually a very depressed young man at the time, and I think we all suffer from that when you're about 17 and stuff. You've got a lot of angst,
yeah,
and a lot of resentment, and a lot of this, that, and the other. So I think it comes from that. Yeah.
But it was so great, and then there were all the albums. There were so many great albums that came from that. Obviously, Heartbreaker. There were many, and songs like Wishing Well, which I was thinking recently about how so many people have covered "Wishing Well," which was a little bit later, of course. But do you like the versions that people have done of that? Everybody from Pearl Jam.
Which ones do you mean?
Like the covers of "Wishing Well." Yeah, like how Pearl Jam has covered that song.
Well, I haven't heard that yet. I would like to hear it.
Oh yeah, when you and I are done later, if you want, go on YouTube and watch Pearl Jam doing it. They've done it. So, and Temple of the Dog did The Hunter because of you, and
really,
yeah, Chris Cornell singing it because he's always been when he and I were friends, he was a huge fan of yours as well. So, but a lot of people covering different tracks at that period of time, and then of course, it was really sad to have lost Paul Kossoff, and what you went through there as a bunch of young guys to kind of trying to figure out what to do from there. Paul, what was that like? Have to make those changes.
when Paul died, he died on an airplane. It was tragic for me. Actually, we were in the middle of a huge Bad Company tour, and we were very successful. I had just seen Paul a few days before, and he got up with us, and we had a jam. I can't remember where it was exactly. I'm sure somebody remembers. Oh, it was the Whiskey, actually. It was Whiskey, yeah. And Paul got up and jammed with us, and he was actually great. But I didn't realize just how bad his shape was. Really, it floored me completely. I completely freaked out, to be honest. I wanted to go home, cancel the tour, and everything. But Peter Grant sat me down and said, "Look, you can go home, but what are you going to do when you get there? I mean, you can do that." But a lot of people will be very disappointed in this Bad Company tour now if you pull out in the middle of it, right? And so he talked some sense into me, I guess, is what you would say. But I was very broken up about Paul. And to this day, I still wish I had that friend,
Yeah, you guys all coming up together. That I know that's not easy. We lose friends young like that. And, after the years of Free, though, of course, forming Bad Company, I thought it was cool that, everybody loved your voice. So the Doors were talking about you as a second lead singer. Deep Purple after Ian Gillan left. Were you getting those calls and before you formed Bad Company? Did you realize that these people were looking for you, and were you actually approached about that?
I was approached by some people. Neil Sean did approach me to join this new band he was putting together. But I was doing Bad Company. Mick Ross and I were getting together with Bad Company, but I didn't want to say anything because I wanted to wait until actually together before it was announced. We're still looking for a manager at the time. We were still writing songs. So I was deeply into, what me and Mick were doing, because Mick and I formed Bad Company, actually.
Yeah, and I love that, Mick, I think finally that's when he really found his place, because after being in Mott the Hoople, I know that he said it, as well as Ian Hunter said that, Ian said I couldn't really sing those songs. Paul's the right guy to sing those songs, and that was, he needed to make that move. So how did that come together where you guys actually realized you wanted to work together and you guys were going to become this songwriting unit that became the great Bad Company?
Mick was fantastic. He was he still is, of course.
Yeah.
Back in the day, though, I'm talking about the early days. And, what happened was I had a band called Peace we put together.
Right.
I put together, and we were touring with Mott the Hoople. So Mick and I would sometimes meet in the band room around the tuning area. See, there was a tuning room, we called it. Yeah. And there was amps in there, and you tune your guitar there. There was a little thing there. And so we find ourselves in there, the two of us, and he'd be playing something, and he'd be playing. So we'd just jam together. And all of a sudden he played this song, I Can't Get Enough of Your Love, right? And I said, that is a hit, my friend. I suppose you're going to do that with Mott the Hoople. And he said, no, they're not going to do it because it's not really their style. So I said, well, why don't you give it to me? I'll do it. So that was the beginning of a conversation, and we started to write songs from there on in. I played in Rocksteady or something like that, and I played in Bad Company. Actually, to be honest, I had written Bad Company and called Mick up because we were looking for a name for the band that we were going to be doing, right? And we would say things like the 4 Million Air Bubbles. no, no, that's not it, or the Fury or something like that. And like all these names are rejected. And I just found out one day I had this song going, and I said, Bad Company, like that. And he's there's a fumbling. He said, what? I dropped the phone. Yes, that's it. That's the name of the band. And I actually didn't mean that's the name of the band. I said, no, it's a song title. But he said, no, we've got to call it Bad Company. And I said, yeah, all right, that's good. I like it. And yeah, well, again, though, when we put when Peter Grant connected to us, and somebody told a road manager that used to work with Zeppelin told me, why don't you call Peter Grant? He wants to talk to you. So he gave me the number. It took me like a couple of weeks to work up the nerve, right? I'd heard all about Peter Grant and stuff. So I called him up and he said, oh yeah, I'm interested in you. And I says, well, I come with a band, Peter, and it's called Bad Company, right? And he said, oh, don't know about the name. Yeah. So, but anyway, another struggle for the name. So we stuck to our guns, and it was Bad Company. So we ended up, it was a win-win situation, because we ended up with a name and a song as a theme song,
Yeah, and it's it's been covered again recently by Five Finger Death Punch, and bands have been doing the song, and they had a hard rock hit with it. But I love it. It's a classic, and it's great that Mick brought Ready for Love from. Matt had done it, but it was having your voice on it and making it a part of the debut album was just a great thing. So people could hear that song.
Mick did play it to me. He didn't suggest that I would do it, but we were just listening to it in my cottage in the country, actually. And I said, that's a great song. We should do that. He said, you think so? And it is a great song. It's such a great construction. The message is great. The lyrics are fantastic. The chorus is good. It's got everything. So yeah, it was a no-brainer for me. Yeah.
Yeah. So now I'll show you just how much of a big fan I am, that I go deep on you guys. So I loved, which also came out of the sessions for the first album, that version of Easy on My Soul, which was the B-side to Moving On. It's such a great song. And that Bad Company version, like it outshined the free version. Free version was good, but something about the delivery when you guys did that with Bad Company, it took on a new life. It's such a great track. Love that. Yeah. I just want to tell you. Can you tell me a bit about Easy on My Soul?
Well, it became a big live song, actually, when we had the audience singing, and all the floor singing Easy, and all the back things singing Easy on My Soul, the whole audience singing it. It was a great live song. Yeah.
It's a great song, that break at the bridge with I Want to Tell You My Story. That stuff is so good. I love it. You had those, the songs that were B-sides in that period, like Little Misfortune and Whiskey Bottle, all that stuff. So you guys always had great stuff, and that was good of you. Love the band, then you got the single so you can hear the extra tracks, All right, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I learned from Jimi Hendrix, actually, when was it Stone Free was a B-side of something, was it Hey Joe?
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, he's put a really fantastic track on a B-side. That's what I'm going to do if ever I get there. So I always thought, well, B-sides shouldn't be overlooked. They should be good songs.
Yeah, and they absolutely are. So I finally get to see you guys, which was so great. Straight Shooter tour at Madison Square Garden, and there's another album where that record start to finish is such a great record. Whether it's the deep songs like Weep No More, through all the singles that were on the record, and radio hits like Shooting Star, Good Love and Gone Bad, such great tracks. That album just comes out swinging and such great. How was it? You guys had seen that you'd amassed this huge following and all this love in the States. When it was time to go in and write the second album on Swan Song, where were you? Did you guys have time? Did you take a little time off, or when it came time to come up with those songs, Paul?
Well, I can't remember, actually. I don't remember any time off. I think it was pretty seamless. We got back home and we'd had this huge success with Bad Co, the album, the Black Album. And we sat down and said, right, how did we do that? Exactly. The thing was, Led Zeppelin were very key to our success there, because what they had got set up was an old house in Headley Grange, right in the country. It was an old mansion, and they'd had all the equipment set up there, and they were delayed. And Peter Grant called me and said, look, if you guys can get in there, you've got 10 days, you could put a couple of tracks down. So we bombed in and we put everything we had down. That's how the first Bad Company album was created. You know, it was not that we were rushing, but we were so keen. And here we are in this great big mansion with all the gear set up. And we were sleeping there. So we'd get up and have breakfast, then we'd make the fire, then we'd just start playing, and we'd play all day, all night. It was a great atmosphere. And Led Zeppelin give us that. And that's what we tried to recreate on the second album. We went to a castle, Clearwell Castle, and it was pretty good. It was a pretty good simulation of whatever we had done. It was pretty magical. Yeah,
it really was, and it was a great album as well. It was such a great one. And then, you know, through the years after that, would Run with the Pack, which another great album. And does it blow your mind sometimes, Paul, with the staying power of songs like Silver, Blue, and Gold, and you know, and tracks like the title track, Run with the Pack, or Live for the Music? People still love to hear them, and they just still they you know, people feel those songs. How does that, knowing that, how does that feel?
Well, I think that it comes from we put our teeth really on songs that did exactly that. You know, when you listen to you know, Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters and those guys, they wrote songs, you know, and they were just timeless, beautiful, and that's what turned me on to blues. The timelessness, actually, of that music, and soul music too. Although soul is a little more poppy, but that's okay. You know, it's still got like a powerful feel, and that's what we took, and that's what we ran with. Yeah,
absolutely. And then Burning Sky too, another great record. And the groove on Burning Sky was so cool because it was just, you know, again, you guys are pushing the limits with that.
Yes, well, by that time we were pushing the limits. We were in Pontoise, just outside of Paris, and what did we do? Oh yes, it was a heat wave actually, and there was flies everywhere. The kitchen windows were open, and all the rubbish, all the refuse, if you like, the kitchen stuff was all outside. There's flies all over it. But anyway, so I digress. But we did a good album. By that time, though, oh yes, actually, we were going to. Yes, I was very tired of the studio atmosphere that we had there. So I'd go into Paris and book a nice hotel. And I thought, if we're going to make all this money, I'm going to spend a bit now. So I went into Paris and had a nice hotel. So I spend the weekend doing that. So I wrote, I had a chorus. The sky is burning. I leave myself. That one, you know. Yeah. And what I did was I worked out some verse chords. And then I took that to the studio and I said, hey guys, I got this song. It goes like this. And everybody joined in. And I had no lyrics for the actual verses. I only had the sky is burning, I believe, my soul's on fire. And I just really liked that. And so I just made up the story when the red light was on, waiting for the van to arrive. It's just all ad-libbed right from the start. And I actually liked it when I heard it because it told a story, which I always like to do. And yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of which, telling great stories, Shooting Star, I mean, I know I'm going back to the second album, but that song, I mean, there's so many things in historically with music, and whether it's from the beginning of rock or any other format of music, Shooting Star is just a story that still resonates because so many people have gone through things like that. Tell me about what inspired you to write that song, Paul.
Yeah, I think so. You know, it's strange. I remember thinking, you know, there's so many people dying. Jimi Hendrix had died, Janis Joplin had died, and Jim Morrison had died. You know, and I thought, wow, this is the entertainment business. I don't really know why so many people are dying. They're all shooting stars, and that's where the idea came from. And I just thought, don't you know it? Because they don't know that they're shooting stars. And I think what happens, and it's kind of a warning too, you know, you can get so into drugs, etc., just like the overdoing stuff, over partying, I guess is what you might call it. And it can kill you if you're not, not careful. I mean, nowadays I like to do a lot of meditation. I'm very clean. I don't do drugs. I actually stopped drinking about 20 years ago when I got married to my lovely Cynthia.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
26 years.
26
That's
years.
fantastic. Congratulations, guys. Yeah, I'm sober over 3 years now, and I love it. I feel so much better. You know what I mean? I'm just.
Congratulations. Yeah.
It's the only way to go for me. It's just, I feel 100 times.
I think so too.
Joe Bonamassa was on the show recently. We had a big bonding session over our love of you and our love of Free and Bad Company. And I love that you got together and you did some versions of like Fire and Water with him and, playing with him. Is it enjoyable to go and play with other guitarists that you're finding that are such big fans? Tell me about your relationship with Joe.
Oh, it's absolutely lovely. It's great. Because, he does a version of Seagull too, and he puts a completely different twist on it, which I would never have thought of. And it's very refreshing for me to hear that. And he's such a great guitar player. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, I think that's great. Did you enjoy getting together with a bunch of your old friends for the Garry Rossington Skynyrd tribute recently that you did?
I really did. Yeah. Slash was great. Everybody was fantastic. It was such a big event. Wow, it was huge. The country fans were brilliant. Yeah. It was lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. And so I want to finish up with talking about the new album quickly, and then I'll let you go. But I love that you're on Sun Records and that Sun Records is resurrected and you're doing Midnight Rose on Sun. And you've got these 8 great songs that are coming up. Talk to me about making this first solo record since 99. It's almost a quarter of a century. So tell me about how making these record and coming up with these tracks.
Well, like everybody, and I had a lot of downtime with the COVID thing, and I was sat around playing acoustic guitar, and I just started to work on the songs I had, and I thought, well, I wonder if I could put this together and go in the studio and just get some local guys, and I got a couple of my rhythm section came from Vancouver, and Todd, the bass player who wrote the single with me, had sent me a demo. And I said, where did you record this? And he said, well, I recorded it at with Ray Roper. And he's actually moved his studio just down the road from this. So I clicked, a light went on in my head, and I thought, there's a guitarist. He's a good guitarist. I've got a rhythm section. I do a bit of singing. Let's get together and see what we can do. And so without really sort of let's make an album or anything grand, we just got in the studio and put some things down. We had a good time doing it.
And then Bob Rock got involved.
It became the album, right?
That's great.
Yeah.
And Bob Rock got involved at that point, was it?
Yes, he did. Well, about halfway through, I was flagging a bit because I was like, oh, why am I doing this? I don't really need to do this. And I got a bit jaded. And my wife took over the production, and she's Cynthia. Do you want to say hello?
I'd love to say hi to Cynthia. Hi, Cynthia. I just want you to know, by the way, Cynthia, thank you for making this happen because I'm such a uber fan of Paul's.
Well, she brought Bob Rock in, and Bob Rock brought a lot of other musicians and put some real finesse and some real polish on the mother tracks that we put down, the bed tracks. And the result is as you hear. Yeah.
It's great. Well, we're really excited about it, Paul. I just wanted to tell you, we know the album's coming out September 23rd. We're playing the single, and I look forward to next time you're coming through the Los Angeles area. I can't wait to see you live again. I've always
thanks. Thanks, you too, my friend.
And
the album, the single is not really representative of the whole album. It's very varied, and there are different kind of songs on there.
Yeah, well,
so please enjoy.
Oh, absolutely will. I want to just say thank you so much for taking the time today, Paul. This has been on my bucket list. I've done a lot of interviews in my life, but I've loved you since I was 9 years old, and I've been a fan, and I'm like, man, and always have been, because to me, you are the real deal, the best. So thank you,
Well, thank you, and God bless you for saying that.
Yeah.
I love you too, man.